slow, take me away.
Hello YouTube and welcome back. I've got another video for you guys today, and this is the Advanced Forge lesson number 1. That's right, you guys have been waiting for this one forever. I just released Forge Tips 7 and now I've got Forge Tips 1 out already. That's great. So, this is the Advanced series, however, so if you haven't watched all of the basic series, all 7 videos, then I really suggest that you go back and you watch it, unless you just really know what you're talking about, because there's a certain way that I forge that even if you do know a lot about Forge, I'm probably going to confuse you a little bit with some of the things that I talk about. So go back and watch the basic tips videos just to get you caught up to speed with me. Alright? So now, as an advanced forger, you know how to control your map, and you can control your players, your weapons, and even how your map reacts to certain game types. You know your stuff, but you're not really Class A Forge just yet, so these Advanced Forge Lessons series, I'm gonna be showing you how to do everything you really can imagine in Forge. And for the sake of this Forge Tips series, I'll be using many of my maps to showcase examples instead of trying to build a new one from scratch as we did in the basic tips. This is Lesson 1. In Lesson 1, we're going to be covering how to start designing your map. Preparing and planning for your map will ensure that most everything goes smoothly. It'll take a little time and practice before you can plan for any bugs that might go wrong, but we're going to start off by designing using a variety of techniques. So how are you going to design your map? There's countless tools at your disposal. First off, pencil and paper method. This is personally my favorite method. It's fast, it's easy, and you don't have to have any special knowledge to do it. Simply sketch what you want your map to look like. Make sure you note key places and important spawns. Another tool you might use is Microsoft Paint. It's a really simple tool, and if you're good with it, it's really easy and fast to make simple map designs, and it can be even better than drawing on a piece of paper. Other imaging editing programs are going to work similar to Paint. GIMP and Photoshop are two of them. I like to draw up stuff in Photoshop just because I'm really fast with it, I'm good with it. But whatever you're really comfortable with. But there is one thing I want to talk about that I highly recommend to all of you out there, no matter if you're good with paper or an editing program. It's called Google Sketchup. It's a free tool and exceptionally powerful. Sketchup's a little hard to use, but once you get it down, you can literally build your basic layout on your computer before you attempt it in-game. I'm going to include a download link to SketchUp in the description, along with a download of the Forge objects list for SketchUp, which is going to save you a ton of time because it's going to prevent you from having to build each and every object in SketchUp. Also, you can simply make a list of your keystones, which I suggest you do before sketching anyways, and just leave it at that, but I really do recommend drawing out your map in some fashion. So when you finally start designing your map, it's a good idea to have a legend or key. This key will allow you to use symbols and letters to denote weapons, key areas, spawns, and other important aspects. For example, using capital RS means red spawn, while RL might denote the rocket launcher. Maybe you use a red square to determine the red spawn, or maybe you use a blue circle to show where the sniper is, stuff like that. Now, the first step of designing your map is deciding on your keystones. Your keystones are the main ideas of your map. They are size, location, and shape. These are just the primary keystones. However, decide on these carefully, and remember that not all combinations are compatible. Large symmetric maps can really tax your budget and be difficult to control, while small asymmetric maps can be too chaotic for most players' liking. Your secondary keystones also need to be considered. What range will the map be? Close, long, or medium? Will it be team or FFA oriented? And what kind of game types do you want this map to be set up for? These will all be deciding factors in your supporting ideas, so make sure to decide these carefully. Now, before we move on to the supporting ideas, I want to talk about two things. You have two very important details to consider that actually come before your keystones, and they will help you decide what you're going to use for the keystones. The first is your budget. This can really limit what you can do, because if you're trying to make a large map, it just hurts you. And two is your resources, and this is also very frustrating because it kind of limits your creativity. And you'll see whenever you actually start forging maps that it does get in the way of your full potential of creativity. So, yeah, just pay attention to those. Now, once your keystones are set, it's time for some supporting ideas. The supporting ideas are large factors in your map that are decided by your keystones. Like keystones, they have primary and secondary units. The primary supporting ideas are spawn system, weapon types, and key areas. Your spawn system needs to be considered by all of your keystones in mind. So, whenever you're deciding on your spawn system, take the size, location, and shape of your map, and then think about what kind of range your map has, and if it's team or FFA oriented, or what kind of game types you want it to be set up for. So your spawn system is really affected by all of those. Now you have weapon types. Weapon types is affected by basically the range and the game type, and also kind of by the size of your map. So if you have a mid-range map, you're going to want to put a lot of mid-range weapons on it, and maybe, a close-range weapon or two, a couple long-range weapons. But honestly, you're going to want a lot of mid-range weapons, such as the assault rifle. The DMR is it's mid-range. A lot of people describe the DMR as mid-range, but honestly, I would consider the DMR long-range because you can get pretty far kills with it. And that's just my personal thing. It all depends on what you think, but make sure to take into account all of that when deciding on what your weapon types are going to be. And the final supporting keystone, key areas. The key areas is going to take into account the shape and the size of your map and what kind of game types you're going to be using. Bases and large structures are usually included in your key areas. So a small map with a huge base is gonna play weird. The secondary supporting ideas include a variety of personal choices, such as aesthetics and unique design ideas. A good example of a secondary supporter is deciding that you want rockets in the center of your map. Here are some simple designs I drew up in Photoshop that show off key elements of a good design. It has a legend, and a general shape of the map is clearly visible. More advanced designs could show off expected traffic flow and heat maps, which we'll be getting into later. Now, once your design is finished, it's time to make a list of minor details. This is going to include a weapons list, which details how many of each weapon you're using and their spawn times, along with other things. Now, after you have everything to your liking, it's time to put your plan into action. Enter Forge and begin your creation. Stick around for Forge Tips 2, because in Forge Tips 2, we're going to be applying your design in Forge. I really hope this lesson helped you guys. I'm going to start having more lessons like this instead of just plain Forge. I think the pictures are actually kind of a good idea. There is going to be, of course, plenty of forging in these lessons, but I'm also going to start including like lists and pictures and stuff like that just to kind of help you guys out. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and this is Envoy of the Eve, signing out.